Les instants avant le commencement.
D'accord.
Jalal, tu peux pour l'instant te muter.
Très bien.
Merci.
It's so quiet, I miss the music. Yes. Which one, mine? Yeah, thank you.
Алексей, доброе утро, вы готовы? Алексей, переводчик, вы готовы? Я не слышу. Я реакции его не слышу. Я включил.
Микрофон пока что отключен.
Сейчас у тебя включен.
У него и Алексея нам нужен переводчик.
Ну вот у Алексея как раз сейчас микрофон отключен.
Да-да-да, я вижу. Я поэтому... Все. Да, последний звонок. Марио, начинайте. Доброе утро всем и хорошего дня.
Доброе утро, спасибо. Thank you very much, Mr. Platonov. I would like to call for Mr. Hans Rook, who will be moderating today's session for the port community systems. How what we have been discussing the first 2 days, multimodal data exchange is important for port community systems, and what is the role of port community systems in achieving this multimodal data exchange. Thank you very much, Mr. Rook.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you for your introduction. And yes, indeed, multimodal is very, very important for inland traffic and to find ways to have a better sustainable situation. But first of all, ladies and gentlemen, dear organizers of the UNECE and PL 3335, dear friends from Odessa, good morning to all of you. To this session, early for me, for you it's already 10:30, for mine it's 9:30, but it doesn't matter. It's not beautiful weather outside, so it's good to sit in here. Monday last I learned, it's already 10 years ago that the Ukraine organizes this event. Well, I can tell you, I remember very well the last one. I was over there in 2018 when we combined our IPCSA member meeting with the UNECE seminar, a 2 days event including the gala dinner. Never forget the gala dinner, and I'm still reminded by my Secretary General about that. A great event that hopefully will last for many, many years, and an event that allows the exchange of views amongst global experts and professionals. I'm very much pleased with the organization of the 3-day seminar by video. A great effort with an excellent result. Congrats with that from Odessa. That said, I will now focus on our last panel of the 3-day session, being connected and sustainable trade and supply chain systems. 4 topics, different topics, but all has to do with sustainability and connectivity. The kickoff will be presented by our Secretary General of IPCSA, Mr. Richard Morton, handling the connectivity aspects in the presentation of connecting electronics exchange platforms. Second presentation, well, our well-known Mr. Yalal Benayoun, as CEO from Portnet Morocco, which has an excellent single window. Well, in my opinion, it's an excellent single window, but there are very, very many options of single windows, of course. And he will handle the supply chain on sustainable development goals. Point of no return will be the third option. Obstacles in the development of PCS will be explained by Mr. Lev Bayazitov, working as consultant for PCS single window of Odessa PL 3335. And last but not least, my friend Dmitry Yakimenkov from PL 3335. He will handle the maritime single window and especially about the electronic tools for communication between vessel and port. But before giving the floor to Richard Morton, I will dwell on the situation of today in combination with our topic sustainability. For many, many years, we discuss already sustainability. It is discussed also in the G20, Earth's energy transitions for sustainable growth in July 2019. We know that nations have set the targets for 2030 and 2050 even various ports are doing the same, try to find out ways to have a reduction of pollution. All trying to reduce that pollution. Stop the climate change, the hole in the ozone layer that has reached today the size of 1 million square meters. Measures are taken and still will be taken. And then suddenly Mother Earth says, stop here. Really nothing to do with IT. Just the spread of a virus that is unknown and stops us from our continuous efforts to find ways to solve the problem, at least reduce the problem. And then lockdown. Terrible disease and no vaccines to combat this. The world comes to a standstill. Mother Earth has reached her limits. Suddenly people in India can see the Himalaya from a distance. Swans are back in Venice to breed. Pollution in China areas like Beijing, Shanghai, and Western Europe suddenly disappear. And all of this without IT tools. The world, Mother Nature, Mother Earth is in reset mode. Not only Mother Earth, but also you and I. We are all in reset mode. We have to think about the startup again, how to recover from the economic downturn, reset ourselves, change mindset, and do some steps back into the past to restart the present and to look into the future. Achieving sustainability will enable the Earth to continue supporting life. A great task for all of us, whereby also PCS and single window environments have the duty to contribute to this. And I'm sure they will, they can, and make the major contribution to the process. Three major factors for the balance in sustainability are environment, socials, and economics. Sustainability as a result of connectivity, further PCS and single window development, reducing use of paper documents, creating data maturity, fine-tuning the transport route is an important role for PCS operators, their stakeholders, you and I. I'm looking forward to the vision of all of us. The session of today might contribute to this. I hope so. So far, so good. So I will stop talking now for a while, maybe for the whole day, I don't know. But I will hand over now to Richard Morton to brief on the connectivity aspects. Richard, the floor is yours.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Mr. Platinoff and colleagues from PPL 3335, and to all the participants. Hopefully you can all see the presentation that I'm sharing. And today I'm going to be talking about the network of trusted networks, about connecting platforms. In fact, it was 8 years ago on the 30th of May 2012 that I first made my meeting in Odessa with Mario, looking at the development of port community systems and single windows in the region. And 8 years later, there's an effective PCS and single window activity within the port, and we're actually moving forward to share data across borders. And that's what I'll be talking about today. So what are the challenges? We all use data. Data is part of our everyday need. But why is it more challenging to share it across border when it comes to commercial cargo? So what we've seen in some of the challenges are that consumers and logistic companies now more than ever before require real-time end-to-end visibility of goods, even with the current crisis. Knowing when your goods are going to be there enables you to plan better for your arrival, for the safety of your staff and your employees. So now more than ever, we need to have that real-time information. Traditionally, single windows and port community systems have only operated within their own regions or own country, because that's where the problem was. And there's been very little cross-border or port-to-port exchange of data. What are the reasons for that? Well, sometimes it's just doing business across borders. It scares people. How do you have an agreement or contract between two parties that are speaking a different language? What happens if it goes wrong? How do you manage that? We're all involved in international trade. We all know the problem. How can we simplify that? And then, of course, it's the lack of transparency in terms of fee negotiation. You need the agreement, you need the contracts, then you need to agree fees. How do you know that they're reasonable and fair? And then, of course, data ownership. We all know the challenges that we have on data ownership and confidentiality. And that gets even bigger when you go cross-border. In Europe, we have the General Data Protection Regulation, where anything related to personal privacy becomes quite a challenge to start to share. You have to have the beneficiary's permission to share it and the reason for sharing it. And there's also a lack of commonly used standards. So many of the last 2 days have been talking about standards, and there are wonderful standards out there, and the work that is done by UNECE and others is great. However, for the reasons of IT, tying people into specific proprietary standards, they're not commonly used. We need to know that standards are going to be the same, particularly the data elements. It doesn't matter whether you use ISO, UNECE, WCO, as long as we're talking the same basic language and same understanding. And then finally, when you're looking at cross-border and connecting platforms, there's a lack of neutrality. there's always a vested interest. And so today we'll be looking at how we can address that and what we as IPSCA are doing in order to support that. So just continuing, what we've seen as an association is that the new fast developing technology enables new ways of information sharing and business models. There was talk yesterday of blockchain. Well, so far blockchain in the maritime industry hasn't been taken up because it's not dynamic enough to deal with the multiple stakeholders. And actually existing technology does. And there is security issues, there's data issues. So what we need to see, not just that technology is driving forward, we need to make sure that the business processes are driving technology as opposed to technology driving business processes. We see multiple, it seems like daily that we have announcements of a new global platform for sharing data, but none of them have gained the scale that is required, and they tend to focus on targeting end users, the freight forwarders, the agents, the shipping lines, the trucking companies, the end consumer. And they're trying to deal with the whole data pipeline as a single entity, and that's caused challenge. We also see that there's been a lack of neutrality of these like global platforms. There's a vested interest. There's an interest behind it that's looking at how much money can be made from sharing other people's data. And that means that people are concerned about what data is going to be shared. Is your competitor one of the platforms this is trying to share your data? Do you want them to share your data? And so again, these are some of those challenges. And when you have multiple platforms, you have multiple ways of connecting. And a lot of those are going to be proprietary. They're not standard. Even some of the major global platforms are not using the basis of UNECE's core component library for data elements, as an example. And so the lack of data standards also provides a challenge. But also the opportunities are that every country through the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement are moving towards single window, or in some case, multiple single window. I know that's not always the phrase that people like to hear, but we see countries having a customs single window, a maritime single window, and multiple other types of single windows. They do come together eventually, but again, there is a phased approach. But we also see, because of this requirement of sharing and exchanging data, there's for operational and not just administrative reasons, that there's an increasing use of port community systems, cargo community systems, airport community systems, and other platforms that have already been there. In the case of port community systems, some of our members were starting sharing and exchanging data electronically 45 years ago. So given the challenges that I've just outlined, can this be solved? Can we solve the problem of making cross-border and port-to-port exchange of data for the benefit of the supply chain? Can we solve that problem? So what do we need to do to solve that? We need to make sure agreements and fee negotiations are transparent between parties, secure and confidential. We think nothing of going to one of the Play stores, downloading an app and using it. We just expect it to work. We agree to the terms and conditions. Probably every other day we're going onto a new website and we're agreeing to the terms and conditions. Can we use that mechanism for sharing data between electronic exchange platforms? Consumers and logistics companies are busy doing their day jobs, operating, moving the cargo. And for them to connect to multiple platforms is a challenge. So can they use the existing platforms that are already there to share real-time data on the cargo information that is already moving through those platforms? Is there a network that can be trusted? And we need to ensure that data standards are applied as a default rather than as a secondary thought. And the connection is simple. even for the smallest organization. There was a question yesterday on ECMR. We're a small organization. Can we connect for ECMR? But ultimately, you still need total control over data ownership. So that's what we are looking at doing as the International Port Community Systems Association. And we're launching the network of trusted networks. And over the next few slides, I'll explain briefly about what that's trying to achieve in the first 2 years as a proof of concept. But before I go into the actual network of trusted networks, I'll tell you why IPSCA. Why would IPSCA be looking at this? Well, we're a neutral and independent party. Our members act in the common interest of all, as opposed to a few or individuals. We were formed in 2011, and in fact, coming to Odessa in 6 months after we formed, and it's been great to see PPL 3335 grow and develop in those 8 years since then. We now have 45 members operating in over 50 countries. In fact, last week we had the Port of Zeebrugge in Belgium join, and the Port and Europa Port of Le Havre join as a member. And we're seeing with the current crisis that the expertise that is within the IPSCA membership is something that ports and single window operators around the world are looking towards and looking to benefit from. Our members have 1 million+ users around the world, probably 20 billion electronic messages a year. But to put that in context, that doesn't include, for example, our Chinese colleagues, Logink, the national Chinese logistics platform. They currently exchange on a daily basis 100 million AIS messages and 40 million GPS messages for positioning of trucks. And that's just one of our members. So as an association, we have over 250 sea and airports and land borders within our membership, within those 45 members. That equates to 500 million TEUs going through their systems annually, 10 billion tons of cargo, probably around 50% of world maritime trade going through our members. In Europe, that jumps to 80% for maritime and 40% for air. We match those regions of the United Nations, and we have an open membership for air and seaport community system operators. These are the operators, not the software providers, though some may be both. Air and seaport authorities, single window operators. We have them all from Morocco, and you'll hear Jalal later, and TradeVan in Chinese Taipei. And we have associations with international and regional organizations. So as IPSCA, we're taking this forward because we're neutral, independent, and can bring scale to the exchange of data across border and port to port. So what's the concept? Well, our concept of network of trusted networks, it'll provide predictability, visibility, and certainty for the supply chain actors. It will facilitate port community systems, single windows, sea and airport authorities to exchange the data that is required port to port and cross border. We are neutral, it'll be transparent, and it'll create a level playing field for all sizes of port community systems, single windows, sea and airport authorities to allow for global connectivity. In the first instance, we've launched a 2-year proof of concept starting from the 23rd of April, the 23rd of March, and we're moving that forward over the next 2 years. The proof of concept, the objective is to facilitate this global network of trusted networks, create a global and scalable and collaborative solution amongst PCSs and single windows based on track and trace APIs. We heard about APIs yesterday, and it's facilitated by us as an association. And the ultimate aim is to simplify cross-border and port-to-port exchange of data simply and easily. So how are we going to realize? How are we realizing this network of trusted networks? It's Not sure of the phrase, but it's a neutral, trusted, global federated governance network. We hear a lot about federated systems. What we're doing is bringing together PCSs across the world, from China through to the Americas, to Africa, to Asia, to Australia, to Europe. So we have global, and the information remains in their systems. It doesn't go into a central system. It's not stored and dated. It's combining the legacy systems with newer technologies. So the PCSs that are using message exchanges, they're combining that with now data reference models, but also the technologies for APIs, the interfaces, simple interfaces, and even blockchain. You heard yesterday from Galina from PPL 3335 about the Bill of Lading initiative, the blockchain. We'll be incorporating that into our network of trusted networks. What will we do with it? Well, we'll have standard APIs. As I said, think about a Play Store. If you want to have an app on your phone or computer, you go to it and you agree to the terms and conditions and use. In our case, this will be APIs. The API doesn't have data in itself, but there will be terms and conditions. The API will state what data elements are going to be exchanged. Our first ones are port call, so vessel information, and container status. What is the event of that status of that container? So you agree to those terms and conditions, like an app from a Play Store. Those terms and conditions will state what you can and can't do with the data. It'll state what the data elements are, and they'll be mapped to one of the international standard agencies' data reference models. But that's not it. As I said, it doesn't have data. And it'll be a simple API. There'll be a manual with all of the information, and you can implement that in a few hours in your system. And again, the key to what we're talking about is system to system, platform to platform. We're not looking at end users, we're looking at platforms. The PCSs are the single windows, and in the proof of concept, it will just be IPSCA members, but we will develop it further. But once you've agreed to the terms and conditions of the API, you now need to agree the fee negotiation. So through the system, you will be able to connect directly to a data provider. And when we say data provider, that will be one of the other PCSs or single window operators. They will agree a fee with you, just between you, not visible between other parties. Once you've agreed that fee, you will get a hashtag security key, which will open up your API, which will allow you to exchange data. So in some of the tests we've had, from wanting data to actually receiving data through this system, it's a few hours. The benefit of this model of platform to platform is that it maintains the business identities and associated business models of those platforms. They're cooperating as opposed to competing. It ensures that the data is kept securely and confidentially. There's no storage on data. Think of it like a WhatsApp. The data goes from one to the other, and it will be scalable across the supply chain. So in terms of initial participants, we've got 13 of our members so far out of 45. They cover 15 countries, 73 seaports, 1 trade single window, and 9 airports. Some of those actually do in excess of 50 inland terminals as well. But the scale is there. This is a proof of concept, and we potentially have 73 global seaports involved. Just to give you a visualization, the items in blue are where our members are based, the countries they're based, and the port, some of the ports are involved. Those in green are members are other members who have expressed an interest, but because of the current COVID crisis, are delaying participation until a later stage. So the current status that we have of this network of trusted networks, a 2-year proof of concept, initially for IPCSA members. All the agreements are in place with the technical provider and with our members. The first two APIs for track and trace and vessel container track and trace, which is vessel status and container status. The first exchanges will happen in June, May or June, and we'll have the formal launch in May or June. We don't want to just keep talking about it. We're not going to spend 4 years talking about like blockchain did, talking about blockchain being the solution. We're going to show the solution as it's ready. And for any members want to, any party interested, please do contact us. The key to it though is it is platform to platform. The security, the data is already trusted by those PCSs and single window operators. They already have the authentication rules for that data, and they will only ever share data they are allowed to share. So your competitors will not see your data unless it's been allowed to be shared. And that's the key to it. So as an association, we're driving this forward in order to enable port-to-port and cross-border exchange of data. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for the clear explanation. Well, it sounds like music in my ears. Of course, I know it already for a long time, but that doesn't matter so much. So it's clear to me, but I hope it's also clear to the audience. And I would ask the audience whether they have questions so far. I see no chats, no hands. Is that correct?
That's correct so far. We can take answers, questions later.
Yes, of course we can. Okay. Well, then our next speaker, and I saw already, I was talking about Mother Earth, Jalal, but I saw in your background you have Mother Earth already. So I'm very keen on your presentation about sustainability and what the impacts are of the COVID-19 pandemic you described in your presentation as well. So I would hand over now to Jalal Benayoun from Portnet Maroc, the single window of Morocco, to give more background on the sustainability aspects. Jalal.
Thank you so much, Hans. I'm very happy to be among you in this conference. I remember I've participated before a few years ago in Odessa in the first seminars with Mario and with other colleagues. So I'm very happy to be there virtually and for this opportunity. So I want to share with you our example of Morocco, the case of Morocco in implementing a single window. So the single window of trade of Morocco have as a vision is to become and remain the reference in the integration of the supply chain and the stimulation of international inclusive trade to meet the global sustainable development goals. So the meeting the global sustainable development goal is part of our vision. And for our mission is to constantly accelerate and inspire through three elements: through innovation, the use of technology, and community intelligence. This is why we work a lot with our community, but also we are part of the International Port Community Systems Association, and we are part of the pilots that have been described by Richard, the network of trusted networks and the API enabler. So we believe in the work of the community to bring competitiveness for the Moroccan foreign trade and logistics and businesses in Morocco. So Portnet is a fruit of many years of works in Morocco, and it is a tool of the Moroccan government that helps to implement several sectorial strategies. And it is the intersection of many strategies in Morocco, like improving business environment, improving trade and logistics competitiveness, and also generalization of innovation and ego of services, and also contribute in open government development, since Morocco is part of this international initiatives of the United Nations. Our governance is very special. It involves the national economic operator at the center of interest, and most of our stakeholders, main stakeholders, are part of our governance, like as shareholders. So in some figures, Portnet today offers services, electronic digital services to more than 50,000 users, mainly importers and exporters, but also their ecosystem, which is formed by declarant forwarders, bounded warehouses that we've integrated recently, more than 2,000. All the banks in Morocco are also connected to our platforms. A lot of government agencies today, more than 30 government agencies. And we have today, we are offering more than 120 digital services for all this community. And Richard spoke about the EDI exchanges, and today we are exchanging more than 30 millions of EDI messages every year. So the implementation of that platform does integrate that is covering the whole supply chain of Morocco, starting from the business contract to logistics, transportations, to all the formalities in ports or in airports, physical inspections, transit, release of goods, and also settlements, national and international settlements, and regulatory reporting. Contribute in Morocco over the last 10 years to improve the business environment in general in Morocco. So as you say in this slide, in 10 years, Morocco improved its ranking with the linear trend of 5 places in the World Bank, for example, doing business reports. This is the services that we are offering to our community. As I said before, we offer a lot of payments in Morocco to our stakeholders, and also we are working today and finalizing a trade finance platform, which will be inclusive to all the MSMEs in Morocco and connect them to all the banks to ask for a remittance, documentary credits, and so on. And we are offering also services related to port community system or cargo community system, in addition to single windows services. And we give a lot of importance also to give informations, logistical and trade information to our community through two platforms. The one is TradeSense, which is the national trade portal in Morocco, bringing all the informations about formalities and procedures regarding import and export, but also with another platforms that we just finalized, which is the business intelligence platforms that can give detailed dashboards to any importer or exporter or stakeholders in our platforms, individual dashboards that they can see his performance and trade, the comparison with the best doers in the community, and they can just follow their performance through the platform. The challenges that we are facing today, there are many. The main challenges are to improve the digital capabilities of our ecosystem. So we are serving all the businesses in Morocco, all the government agencies, and there are a lot of small and medium enterprises that have not very big capacities in digital tools. So we are trying to offer them such as platforms like TradeSense, like business intelligence capabilities, like ERP capabilities, trade finance, and so on. And we are trying through the work with the local and international community, like the International Port Community System or the African Alliance of E-commerce, to enhance data quality along the supply chain processes between traders. And the example that have been presented by Richard is very, very significant for all. So we try also to streamline regulatory processes and make them less intrusive to the business. So to explain that, we tried only to re-engineer all the processes, administrative processes in Morocco with the government agencies, and to align them to the way businesses are working every day. So just to make them very easy to the businesses. So for example, our goal is not to avoid a customs declaration or import commitment. We are advanced on that, and just to take the business contract and to try to capture all the elements that can be used by the customs or by other government agencies. I mentioned before to make available for MSMEs the information needed at the right time in the desired form regarding markets, logistics, choices, benchmarks, KPIs, and simulation. And in this period of pandemic, it is very, very important to SMEs to have the right information, but because there is a big lack of that. And the other thing, we have a lot of work with our community. Everything is urgent for all the stakeholders, and this is the inconvenience of the single windows systems. We have a big community, so we need to be more agile and responsive to the needs of all the type of stakeholders in our community. COVID-19. So this we are living that. Hopefully, we were very prepared in the single window to work from home remotely, but it's not the case of the whole ecosystem. So this pandemic triggered a paradigm shift in many things. So we today noticed that survival reflex and emergencies are the best remedies for resistance to change. We had before a lot of projects that are going very, very slowly because of some stakeholders, legal constraints, jurisdictions, and many other excuses. But we noticed that only 2 weeks after the confinement was acted in Morocco, all the projects went very, very quickly, and we've integrated 6 new government agencies only 2 weeks after the COVID-19 confinement. And you can see that from 2014 and 2018, we've integrated 26 government agencies. So things went very, very quickly after the COVID-19 pandemic. We had before a lot of arguments that we presented to our community. We present every day. Digitization is very good. The trade facilitation is very good, but we've never thought, even in the United Nations or the International Association, about the fact that that digitization can save lives, and we are living that every day through the digital services that are avoiding the movements of persons and save their life every day. What are the impacts and the lessons from this pandemic? It's very important for us. The first things, as I mentioned before, no resistance to change anymore. So the paradigm of resistance or change management is changing completely. People that were the more resistance today are the whom that are asking every day to accelerate projects. So all the projects and initiatives become urgent for all the stakeholders. This is why you need in any single window or port community system to be very agile in terms of capacity, in terms of responsiveness to the needs of the community. We've noticed also a big supports. We've had before support from the government, but comparing to today is it's different. So digital services become a priority for all the government agencies and the government. So there are a lot of other digital services that have been launched by all the government agencies, and there is no anymore any legal constraints or something like that. We've noticed it also internally, but also with our community, that remote work can be more productive, and we are working every day very in a productive way. Workshops, projects remotely, and there is no problem regarding that. Though in our customer care center, we've also noticed that there is a big reduction in the number of calls and requests for assistance. And from the beginning of this pandemic, not only because of the volumes of goods that is going less and less, but also because there is no human contact between human beings. So the processes go smoothly more than in the past, and the customers also, this is the lesson that we are living in Morocco, and we are very in touch with our customers more than before. That customer will remember our behavior, like businesses, single windows, or port community system, or government agencies, the way we are behaving during this crisis. And also internally, the employees will also remember the way the managers and the businesses are managing this resources remotely. In terms of the sustainable developments, we've made a study a few years ago about the impact of the digitization through PortNet on the sustainable developments, and the results was very surprising. The maturization approach in Morocco saved, and this study should be updated because the numbers go up today. Saved more than 800,000 trees per year. It's the size of example of the Greenwald forest in Germany, and many other things like the annual fuel consumption, or the use of fresh water, electricity, waste that is needed to also to have paper. And I think this is the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to respond to questions if there is any. And thank you again for the opportunity for being virtually with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jalal, for the very good and extensive explanation you have given about your system and the present situation. Are there questions so far, or are we going to continue? Because we have 3/4 of an hour left, so we have time. I don't see questions so far. Maybe they come at the end, and otherwise I will give some questions to you and to Richard for giving some more explanation and background. It's good to see in your presentation, Jalal, especially about the pandemic impacts and lessons. No resistance to change anymore, and all the projects and initiatives become urgent. But looking to our third speaker with the subject of point of no return, obstacles in development of PCS, Mr. Lev Bayazitov, you will give some explanation about that. Looking at the at your slides, no resistance to change anymore. Well, there might be an opportunity to overcome the problems, Mr. Bayazitov. So, Mr. Bayazitov, I would like to give the floor to you and to give your presentation on your subject.
Да, слышно? Меня слышно, да? Да, итак, добрый день, господа, добрый день, Ханс, добрый день, Мортон, господин Ричард, господин Джалал. Я очень рад вас слышать вот с вашими выступлениями снова с 2012 года. И с удовольствием послушал как раз вопросы развития ваших систем, точки как бы роста, точки соприкосновения вот с деловым сообществом, с государством. В принципе, у нас примерно одинаковые, ну, как бы истории, что ли, развития. Но в отличие, пожалуй, от большинства известных нам примеров, у нас еще существует такая проблема, как точка невозврата к точке старта. Поэтому в данной презентации я покажу ну, несколько сухо, какие же препятствия и откуда они происходили на пути развития информационной системы портового сообщества. Начало у нас было в 2011 году на первом международном семинаре «Концепция единого окна и интеграция режима железнодорожных перевозок в городе Одессе», где вырабатывали меры, какие могли бы способствовать реализации стратегической позиции Украины как транзитного государства и экономической интеграции в европейское пространство. Таких аспектов было определено два самых главных аспекта. Это использование фактора роста, роли упрощения и автоматизации процедур торговли в мире. То есть мы понимали, что нужно упрощать процедуры торговли и применять меры как бы автоматизации. И ключевым моментом для этого рассматривалось развитие пилотного проекта по внедрению принципа единого окна. В общем-то, такого теоретической точки, из которой началась история, которую мы рассматриваем в деталях сегодня. Дальше области практической деятельности, они и были сосредоточены, в принципе, на этих двух вещах. То есть при реализации выработанных теоретических позиций общая деятельность приобрела предметный характер, и заложенные изначально взаимосвязи при этом сохранились. То есть получила развитие информационная система портового сообщества, причем ее пробная эксплуатация началась еще в 2012 году, а уже в промышленную эксплуатацию она вступила с начала 2014 года. И очень важная вещь – это имплементация соглашения Всемирной торговой организации об упрощении процедур торговли. Что эти две вещи должны в целом способствовать реализации стратегической позиции Украины и экономической интеграции в европейское пространство. Кстати, должен отметить, что вчера, 28 апреля, было ровно 5 лет, как под руководством господина Марио Апостолова и при исполнении вот вашего меня и господина Федорова было представлено первое исследование готовности Украины к выполнению обязательств по соглашению ВТО об упрощении процедур торговли. И, в принципе, это исследование, оно послужило определенным толчком к дальнейшему развитию. Ну, если вкратце очертить путь этой теоретической концепции в морские порты, то его можно вот отразить на 4 плитках. То есть это первое – осознание и формализация прикладных проблем, связанных с оформлением контейнеров в морских портах. То есть были и задержки, были пробелы в процедурах. Где-то до 2011 года, а потом еще и до конца 2013 года. И вот было предложено такое решение в форме единого окна, которое одновременно и соответствовало международным стандартам, и одновременно позволило решить эту проблему. Для того, чтобы эта проблема развивалась поступательно и изначально была интегрирована в международное пространство, был выбран базовый международный инструментарий по решению проблемы. Это рекомендации 33, 34, 35. Естественно, без организационного обеспечения этого проекта говорить о его реализации и расширении было бы очень наивно. Поэтому организационным обеспечением этого проекта стала так называемая межведомственная рабочая группа по внедрению единого окна в портах Одессы и Одесской области. И вот эта межведомственная рабочая группа, она, в принципе, выполнила роль платформы, объединяющей и государственные органы, и частный сектор, для того, чтобы поддерживать, обсуждать различные аспекты, намечать дальнейшие пути развития и точки развития этого проекта. И, наконец-то, вот самое главное, это реализация проекта в пределах имеющихся ресурсов. Это очень важный вопрос. В пределах каких ресурсов был реализован проект. Он был реализован за счет частного инвестора, как Олег Исаакович вчера говорил, что в рамках государственно-частного партнерства, но при этом финансирование было обеспечено за счет применения схемы самофинансирования. То есть, когда за транзакции взималась плата, и эта плата фактически обеспечивала и функционирование то есть самой системы, и его развитие. Какие же, но все равно на протяжении вот истории развития этого проекта влияние уже было оказано и на состояние операционной составляющей национальной деловой среды, и на общее представление о путях и способах дальнейшей трансформации. То есть вот то, что господин Ричард говорил о соотношении между информационными потоками и бизнес-процессами, то за счет информационной системы портового сообщества было показано, что информация, ее течение, ее структура, она, в принципе, должна определять или трансформировать существующие бизнес-процессы и приводить их к стандартам, понятным всем пользователям, как на национальном уровне, так и на международном уровне. Но, тем не менее, утверждать о преодолении проектом точки невозврата к некоторым исходным позициям было бы преждевременным. Почему? Существуют риски возврата, скажем, к точкам старта, к нескольким точкам старта. Вот сегодня что есть. Существует риск возврата к отсутствию институциональной основы для упрощения процедур торговли на международном и национальном уровне. Межведомственная рабочая группа, о которой я говорил, она провела 30 заседаний за время своего существования. Но параллельно с деятельностью межведомственной рабочей группы была создана правительственная структура, то есть подгруппа в рамках, ну, скажем, правительственного консультативного органа. И вроде бы ее функции и повторяли функции межведомственной рабочей группы, но она работала очень медленно и достаточно и не принимала самостоятельных решений. Второй риск. Риск возврата к формальному имитационному применению международного инструментария по упрощению процедур торговли. То есть существующие, ну, появившиеся, скажем, законодательные и нормативные акты, они иногда не учитывают необходимость стандартизации и гармонизации, и стандартизации и согласования процедур. Есть риск отказа от проекта СПС по различным причинам. И, наконец, то, что мы видим сегодня, существует риск возобновления прикладных проблем, связанных с прохождением грузов в морских портах. Ну вот здесь на временной линейке можно посмотреть некоторые факты, которые подтверждают значимость этих рисков. То есть вот до 2014 года ИСПС работала в тестовом режиме, но при этом продолжались информационные атаки в средствах массовой информации на сам проект с целью его дискредитации. Когда проект пошел в промышленную эксплуатацию с 2014 года, противодействие стало утяжеляться. То есть пошли обращения к правоохранительным органам и к высшим органам власти на то, чтобы этот проект свернуть либо затормозить. Пришлось поучаствовать и в судебных исках, которые, в данном случае, которые подавались против нас. Где-то в конце 2015 года следующий этап развития. Началась деятельность правительства по дерегуляции в портах. Это был очень позитивный момент, когда информационная система портового сообщества, она стала центральной для упрощения процедур в портах. И была распространена эта система на все порты Украины. Но в определенный момент произошло изменение позиции Министерства инфраструктуры. То есть Министерство инфраструктуры – это те, которые являются провайдером работы в портах. В чем изменение позиции произошло? Тем, что с начала дерегуляции в портах планы развития и дальнейшего упрощения процедур правительства и министерств входила работа, то есть основа это была информационная система портового сообщества. С изменением позиции Министерства инфраструктуры из планов ушла привязка к информационной системе портового сообщества. При этом с изменением позиции Министерства инфраструктуры был прекращен запуск новых модулей. То есть просто не подписывались технические задания на разработку новых модулей. Запуск новых модулей возобновился только лишь с начала 2019 года. То есть промежуток 2 года был фактически на старой основе. В определенный момент активизировалась деятельность антимонопольных органов. Опять же, это было связано вот с информационными атаками, с обращениями к правоохранительным органам. И мы, в принципе, узнали, что это такое сила антимонопольного комитета. Поскольку эти решения и деятельность была основана на некорректной информации, на подаче работы ИСПС только частично, то мы были вынуждены в судах находить справедливость уже в отношении расследований антимонопольного комитета. Эти судебные иски, они продолжаются и до сих пор. Параллельно в государстве начался запуск сходных по функционалу проектов. То есть это можно было бы рассматривать как здоровую конкуренцию, если бы не некоторые нюансы, связанные как раз с бизнес-процессами. Ну, следующий наш шаг – это была активизация участия в международных проектах для того, чтобы утвердить ИСПС, придать ей устойчивость в международной среде. Ну и как интересный как ответ, что ли, было на уровне правительственных органов активирована позиция по ликвидации правовой основы для информационной системы портового сообщества. И вот то, что господин Джалал сказал, что во время эпидемии коронавируса, наоборот, активировалась работа их системы, то у нас произошло, честно говоря, зеркально. Только началась эпидемия, сразу появился проект постановления Кабинета министров о ликвидации информационной системы портового сообщества. Как итог, ну, как минимум половина периода существования информационной системы портового сообщества, ее развитие было потрачено на защиту, и время и ресурсы, как на нас, были использованы непродуктивно. Вот один из примеров. Их много, таких точек невозврата, которые были намечены нами вот изначально. Вот как один из таких глобальных примеров. То есть далее момента вступления в силу норм Таможенного кодекса, активирующие подзаконные акты об электронном документообороте, и была подготовлена и подзаконная база к этому кодексу, и была система подготовлена к вступлению этого кодекса. Вдруг неожиданно по факту эта подзаконная база была ликвидирована, и была принята обновленная нормативная база, которая предполагает бессрочное применение сканированных копий бумажных документов. То есть это как бы сразу же отодвинуло вперед следующую точку невозврата. И в это же время были запущены сходные по функционалу проекты, о которых я говорил. Ну, какие же пути преодоления существующих препятствий? То есть у нас два уровня преодоления препятствий рассматриваются. На стратегическом уровне. Это мы работаем над достижением политической воли, консолидации, дальнейшего продвижения к общей цели. Это создание национального единого окна. И используя позитивные стороны каждого из реализуемых в Украине проектов. И сейчас становится очень актуальным. Это работа над недопущением дискредитации в деловой среде самой идеи, заложенной в основу создания и развития проекта. И работы на тактическом уровне, продолжение работы над приданием информационной системе портового сообщества, технической интероперабельности с реализуемыми в Украине проектами. Ну, на этом много можно было бы говорить, конечно, о точках невозврата, о деталях, каких-то. Но это, я считаю, что основные вещи, которые нужно понимать, как с точки зрения отработки уже предыдущего опыта, так и это было бы полезным для тех государств, для тех лиц, которые планируют развивать проекты, подобные вот нашей украинской информационной системе портового сообщества. То есть знание того, с чем придется столкнуться, и знание того, с какой точки изменения будут безвозвратны, это естественный путь к общему успеху. Спасибо за предоставленное слово. Готов ответить на любые вопросы.
Okay, thank you, Lev. Lev, not an easy position. I do not envy your position, I can tell you. It's a very difficult one compared with other ones where I hear a lot of ambassadors in the market, the business market, say you should use a PCS. I know it for many, many years. I was one of the founding members of the PCS in Port of Rotterdam in 2002. And of course, we had resistance as well in the first instance. But then you find that that some of your customers you're talking to, you know your business, that they become your ambassador. They're going to tell their customers and their carrier agents, which are in competition with them, to use the PCS because they saw the value, the added value, and what should happen. Of course, your political situation is completely different from ours, I can tell you. And I don't envy you in that region. So I still hope that, especially on the single window side and what's happening in Odessa now, and the pandemic situation, you have seen the presentation of Jalal, no resistance to change anymore. Well, I don't think it's no resistance, maybe less resistance to change at yours. I hope so. So let's see how that will move forward. I saw some questions in the chat box. I will leave those. They are not specialty for you now. No, it's about standardization in general and about iShare. I will leave those two to the end of the presentation. Let's say after the fourth presentation we will have from Dmitry Yakimenkov about the national single window, but especially about the vessel to port communication, which is, let's say, actually the very first basis to have things running. So Dmitry, the floor is all yours.
Добрый день, Ханс. Добрый день, коллеги. Я очень рад, что наш семинар в этом году состоялся, пускай в такой необычной форме. Рад видеть всех участников в добром здравии. Господин Байзитов говорил сейчас про вызовы, про те трудности, с которыми сталкиваются системы портового сообщества и СПС. В частности, это действительно имеет место быть, но несмотря на все трудности, система продолжает развиваться. Я попытаюсь сейчас в качестве завершающего выступления этой сессии дать информацию, может быть, о каком-то лучике надежды, о перспективах развития, которые, я надеюсь, могут показать, что Украина движется в том же направлении, как и все мировое сообщество, по пути упрощения процедур и по пути применения цифровых решений в этом направлении. С точки зрения функционирования систем портового сообщества, мы уже неоднократно говорили, что системы портового сообщества вышли за пределы портов и стали уже, можно даже применить такой термин, как система грузового сообщества. Но в то же время взаимодействие судно-берег и функционал морского единого окна – это та центральная часть системы портового сообщества, вокруг которых строится все их функционирование. Поэтому я хотел бы сегодняшней презентации, сделать акцент именно на этом. С точки зрения самого понятия морского единого окна у нас есть различные определения в различных международных организациях. Я уверен, что вы все с ними знакомы. Я хотел бы сделать акцент на моменте, касающемся взаимодействия морского единого окна и таможенного единого окна, а именно процессов оформления транспортных средств с точки зрения процессов морских администраций, портов, терминалов и процессов оформления грузов с точки зрения таможенных администраций. Как вы видите, в определении Всемирной морской организации эти понятия четко разделены в перечень информации, которая по версии Всемирной морской организации предоставляется в рамках морского единого окна, включены файл-формы и дополнительная информация, касающаяся отходов и безопасности. С точки зрения Европейского агентства по морской безопасности, морское единое окно дополнено информацией, касающейся таможенных формальностей, касающихся необходимости предоставления информации о грузе. На вот этом слайде вы видите концептуальную архитектуру морского единого окна, которая сейчас обсуждается в рамках вступления в силу изменений в регуляторном акте о единой среде морского единого окна Европейского Союза. И на этой концептуальной архитектуре хорошо видно, что функционал морского единого окна объединяет в себе и предоставление информации, касающейся оформления груза, и информации, касающейся оформления непосредственно транспортного средства. При этом архитектура дает ответ на вопрос, кто главный в порту. Я не знаю, насколько этот вопрос актуален в других странах, но вот в Украине он, в частности, постоянно встает в виде конкуренции между таможенными и морскими администрациями в плане управления процессом предоставления отчетности. Эта архитектура показывает, что вся отчетность в морской перевозке предоставляется через морское единое окно, и после этого уже становится доступным как национальным, так и таможенным администрациям других стран. Это включает в себя всю информацию, касающуюся как предварительного информирования о приходе судна, так и его обработки в порту. При этом информация становится доступна таможне и другим уполномоченным администрациям только в тот момент, когда они начинают работать с этой информацией, то есть когда груз становится товаром. Это очень важный момент, который позволяет гармонизовать усилия различных государственных администраций, вместо того, чтобы устраивать конкуренцию между ними за предоставление информации. Другая хорошая иллюстрация в этом направлении – это пример из референса Международной морской организации на примере Германии по созданию системы морского единого окна. Как вы видите, здесь центральное ядро системы морского единого окна, которое оперируется государством, очень плотно взаимодействует с существующими в государстве системами портового сообщества. При этом взаимодействие непосредственно с другими государствами Евросоюза, с другими системами морского единого окна происходит только через это центральное ядро. Аналогичная реализация возможна и в Украине с использованием существующих модулей, которые созданы в информационной системе портового сообщества, которая на сегодняшний день фактически функционирует как портал единовременного предоставления данных в концепции рекомендаций СИФАКТ. и выполняет многие из этих функций морского единого окна. Еще одно направление, которое на сегодняшний день в морской индустрии достаточно серьезно оказывает влияние, это подход к оптимизации судозаходов. Это инициатива, которая была предпринята целым сообществом международных организаций и участников, которая получила название International Task Force Port Call Optimization. Суть этой инициативы заключается в том, чтобы проанализировать препятствия и формализовать подходы в 4 направлениях. Безопасность причалов, безопасность подхода к порту, доступность причалов и доступность этих подходов к порту. В результате этой инициативы был разработан формальный бизнес-процесс, который сосредоточен на оптимизации вот этих 4 показателей и на управлении ими. И на основе результата этой работы были учтены в таком проекте, как Just-in-Time Arriving, который сейчас уже начал реализацию в целом ряде портов мира, но в частности есть информация о применении его в порту Роттердама. И суть этого проекта заключается в планировании и оптимизации подходов судов таким образом, чтобы гарантировать точное время прибытия судна без задержек, без опозданий, без ожиданий судов, что, с одной стороны, оптимизирует расходы на морскую перевозку, с другой стороны, повышает эффективность всей цепочки поставок. Следующий момент, который на сегодняшний день также оказывает очень большое влияние на взаимодействие судна-берег, на предоставление отчетности, как обязательной, так и операционной, и на развитие информационных систем, как береговых, так и судовых, это проект Международной морской организации, посвященный электронной навигации и navigation. Как вы видите, достаточно большое количество разнообразной информации на сегодняшний день предоставляется в рамках отчетности судно-берег. Часть этой информации касается исключительно вопросов морской перевозки, часть этой информации касается вопросов навигации. Далеко не всегда эта информация пересекается. Важно отметить момент, касающийся смещения акцентов отчетности. Если долгое время мы говорили о том, что информация в портах предоставляется от агента, представителя перевозчика, как в порт назначения, так и в государственные органы. После внедрения систем портового сообщества этот обмен информацией удалось гармонизовать. Мы создали единую точку подачи информации, и эта точка во многих странах уже стала функционировать как морское единое окно. То те проекты, о которых я говорил, приводят к тому, что акцент передачи информации постепенно смещается от агента непосредственно на судно. В частности, тот же проект e-navigation включает в себя интеграцию отчетности, интеграцию файл-форм в системы, в информационные системы судов, что позволяет предоставлять большую часть из этой информации непосредственно капитану судна. Следующий момент смещения направления отчетности – это интеграция самих систем портового сообщества, систем морских единых окон. Об этом проекте говорил господин Мортон. Это позволяет еще более повысить точность, эффективность и скорость обработки информации. Информация передается непосредственно от системы портового сообщества в систему портового сообщества, при этом непосредственно судно передается только оперативная информация, которая касается позиционирования и инцидентов. Именно такие решения, как создание сети доверенных сетей, представленных Международной ассоциацией систем портового сообщества, позволяют сделать следующий шаг к оптимизации всей цепочки поставок и повышению эффективности работы портов. Если вы знакомы с развитием такого проекта, как TradeLens, на сайте этого проекта есть достаточно интересная точка зрения. Если бы планирование в отелях было таким же, как планирование в портах, то ни один отель не смог бы разместить то количество гостей, клиентов, которые приезжают и уезжают в порты. В этом тезисе содержится идея о том, что, к сожалению, информационный обмен, точность, глубина и оперативность планирования во многих портах мира далека на сегодняшний день от идеала, от того, к чему мы можем стремиться. Но именно интеграция систем портового сообщества между собой при сохранении контроля над собственностью данных и управления доступом к этим данным может обеспечить нам на сегодняшний момент те значительные преимущества по оптимизации в цепочке поставок именно с точки зрения оборота данных. Кроме этого, я хотел бы сделать еще один акцент на той цели, которую мы перед собой ставим с точки зрения устранения препятствий в цепи поставок международной торговли. Мы прошли достаточно большой путь, мы выполнили стандартизацию документов, гармонизацию элементов данных, но это был только первый этап работы. Я понимаю, что даже этот путь пройден не всеми, не везде, и нам есть над чем работать в этом направлении, но многие из нас уже достаточно хорошо справились с этой задачей. На следующем уровне была проведена оптимизация бизнес-процессов, оформления и устранения дублирований. Опять-таки, далеко не везде эта процедура выполнена полностью, и, может быть, не все до нее дошли, но на сегодняшний день в индустрии эта операция во многом уже выполнена. Мы говорим сейчас об интеграции, об объединении систем, объединении сетей, создании сетей, доверенных сетей, применении интерфейсов API, применение умных данных, таких как смарт-контракты. И это следующий этап в упрощении процедур торговли за счет цифровизации и оптимизации применения этих данных. Но на сегодняшний день существуют вызовы, которые касаются реальных потребностей стейкхолдеров. В первый день нашей конференции был хороший комментарий от представителя азербайджанской таможни, касающийся того, что все проекты по упрощению процедур торговли сосредоточены на данных, сосредоточены на цифрах, а таможня работает не с данными, а с грузом и транспортным средством. То же самое можно, в принципе, сказать и про порты. Мы сталкивались во многих наших проектах с тем, что многие наши стейкхолдеры на самом деле не понимают преимуществ от цифровой оптимизации, потому что те препятствия, с которыми они сталкиваются в своей работе, более сосредоточены не на проблемах с документами, либо проблемы с документами уже решены на сегодняшний день, а на проблемах с нецифровыми активами. Нецифровые активы – это, например, юридические требования, это гарантии их выполнения, это характеристики физического транспортного средства, характеристики груза и так далее. Их на самом деле существует очень много. Та огромная работа, которая была проделана всем международным сообществом по оптимизации всей цепочки поставок, была сосредоточена в основном на тех активах, которые удалось оцифровать. Но вызов отрасли, вызов стейкхолдеров на сегодняшний день говорит о том, что следующим направлением, в котором нам нужно развиваться, будет оптимизация как раз нецифровых активов. И именно это должно привести к решению нашей основной задачи, созданию безбарьерной торговли, к которому мы все стремимся. И для достижения этой цели на самом деле, мне кажется, не нужно изобретать каких-то новых инструментов, новых средств. Есть действительно огромный опыт, наработанный международными организациями, в том числе и СИФАК, международной таможенной организации, ИЗО, и другими, который был применен при оптимизации цифровых активов, при оптимизации элементов данных, бизнес-требований к этим элементам данных, бизнес-процессов. И именно такой же подход может быть применен к оптимизации нецифровых активов. Таким образом, существующие цифровые решения или digital solution, как написано в девизе нашей компании, могут быть использованы для достижения следующего уровня устранения препятствий в цепи поставок и предоставлению отрасли целостного продукта по безбарьерной торговле в единой цепи поставок. У меня на сегодня все. Если есть какие-то вопросы, я готов на них ответить. Надеюсь, что эта презентация была полезна. Спасибо.
Thank you so much, Dimitri, about the explanation given. Of course, the slides are very difficult to read for me, but I know some slides from EMSA, especially from the Maritime Single Window, where you also showed option 3 on top. And option 3 on top wasn't there in the first instance, but on the 3 on top for the declarant to send in their information to the Maritime Single Window is especially the PCSs, the Port Community Systems, or your private single window to do the same. So that's a good option we have brought into that that area. About port call optimization, well, I'm a party of the work group and the steering committee. And of course, I'm born and lived all my life in Rotterdam. I worked in Rotterdam, and I can tell you that in the Port of Rotterdam, together with Portbase and the Port of Rotterdam, they use the port optimization project or in real practice now, and it gives more mature data about the ETAs and the let's say departure of the vessel. So it helps. It works very good. And as I said in the first instance of your presentation, the fundamental things for PCS are the vessel notifications, because the vessel notifications are the very beginning of the logistic flow of cargo to be loaded and discharged before the vessel leaves the port again. Thank you so much for all the information given. And in the meantime, I've seen on the chat box there are a number of chats came in. Some I can't read, but they can translate it for me. But I see the first one I saw was from Rudy Hemmelis about the iShare. Some IBCCA members are exploring. That's gone again. Let me see. It is somewhere down there. Are exploring the iShare options. Yes, I know it's the COSI, especially Cargonaut in the Netherlands for air freight. The port base in Rotterdam and the Port of Rotterdam, and iShare has been embedded in port base and the Port of Rotterdam and Cargonaut, I know, for their let's say their authentication flow. But whether it is supported and accepted globally, I don't know, and I don't know how many efforts have to be paid to get that done. I'm not sure about it. So yeah, I know it's used, but very limited, very limited. Then I see the next question from, is it Mr. or Mrs. Sharma, about the 100% standardization in the shipping logistics space. And maybe Richard, you can add something to it, because you and our colleagues from Antwerp are our standardization and harmonization gurus these days.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you for the comment. Yeah, two things just on iShare. On iShare, it's an authentication of users. So it's more about who the users are, and different platforms then use that in order to ensure they know who they're speaking to. At the moment, we've only seen it in Northwest Europe, mostly Germany and Netherlands, being used, and I think there is a challenge to be accepted globally. So hopefully that gives a bit more information to you, Rudy, in relation to iShare. In terms of the questions on standardization, there's already standardization out there. What we've been trying to do this year, myself and my colleague from our member in the Port of Antwerp, Nico de Kouwer, is to change the conversation to no standards to harmonization. There are many, many standards out there, whether that be UN EDIFACT messages that most of the shipping lines uses, whether that be the World Customs Organization, which has been used by many customs organizations, GS1, there are standards out there. The problem isn't the standards, the problem is about a harmonization between them. To give you one example, it was announced today about the partnership between UNECE, ISO and World Customs Organization with the International Maritime Organization on the creation of the IMO's data reference model. What that does is create a data reference model that is mapped across each of those three standards, which means the industry has a choice whether they use EDIFACT or whether they use CFACT, whether they use WCO or ISO. And that's the key to it, is if we have the same harmonization, as I said, the example there is port of arrival for a maritime authority is generally entry into port territory. Port of arrival generally for customs authorities is arrival at quayside in the maritime world. That could be kilometers apart. So they're talking slightly different definitions. So you need to get that harmonization between those definitions correct. And then you can start exchanging data. As PCSs, as single window operators, most of our authorities or require information in a certain way. And one of the roles that the port community systems and single windows have is to translate that information from one data format into another data format. So the key to it is translation from format to format. And that is made easier by making sure that the basic data element standards are the same. We saw UN CFACT took 15, 20 years to come in place. It's going to take another 15, 20 years to get other standards in. So we need to make sure that the harmonization is there. I don't know whether Jalal, you have any comment on that from your side?
Yes, Richard, I agree with you. There is already a lot of standardization in the industry. We need just to make more efforts to use those standards, and also to UNECE is there also to contribute on developing further those standards. In Morocco, we tried in the single window of Morocco, and the same time is the port community system. We try to use all the standards that are available from UNECE, from WCO or from IMO, and this is the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alal and Richard for giving comments on that subject. I saw another question from Mrs. Sharma about cryptocurrency, wasn't it? Yeah, shipping and logistics sector being a close-knit community. Does IPCSA and the UNECE think that the use of cryptocurrencies is possible in the near future in the community? I don't know. Sue, you're still online, isn't it?
No, Sue left. Sue left because she has another meeting on APIs in using the low code.
All right.
But if you allow me, I can give a brief answer.
Yes.
UNCFACT in UNECE has been working on blockchains for quite a while. There is a white paper on the use of blockchain, especially in authentication in the international supply chain. But we have taken a bit of cautious attitude because this is a technology, and as Richard noted brilliantly in the beginning, neutrality is a key point in providing international standards for trade and transport. So we are just looking how it is developing. And on some not extremely positive note, lately we saw some information that 3/4 of the blockchain active companies in Switzerland have gone bankrupt because of the problems of the COVID epidemics. Never mind, this is a positive development. We are following the developments of all the technologies, including blockchain. Yesterday, there were some very interesting presentations on how blockchain is used, especially the presentation of the Odessa port community system together with Israel. So this is the situation on our side. And just one point, Mr. Chair, the representative of Azerbaijan, Mr. Iqbal Babayev, would like to take the floor. He has raised his hand.
Sorry, I was unmuted. First of all, on your what you told about cryptocurrency, also Richard wants to add something from IPCSA point of view.
Yes, thank you. I think we talk about cryptocurrencies. Blockchain is ideal for that. That's what it was designed for. Whether blockchain will be used for other maritime, I think that's part of another question. Whether cryptocurrencies will be used in the future in the community, yes, I think it already is. It's entirely up to the users. If two users want to exchange, negotiate or fees using cryptocurrency, that is up to them. I don't think it's the role of IPCSA, I'm not sure it's the role of UNECE either, in order to say what should be used in terms of cryptocurrencies. My view is it will be used, but again, which cryptocurrency is always the key.
Yeah, right. Okay, I don't know whether I'm muted or not. I lost a little bit of my control now, but yes, I'm online, that's right. Mario, you said it was Mr. Babayev who wanted to say something, is that correct?
Yes, he raised his hand.
Okay, yes, I saw, yes. Mr. Babayev, the floor is yours.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые друзья. Во-первых, я хотел бы поблагодарить всех докладчиков за прекрасный доклад, за очень интересную тему. У меня и вопросы, и коммент маленький. Во-первых, по поводу, мы сегодня обсуждали вопрос о едином окне. Вы знаете, единое окно – это один из хороших инструментов, которая была рекомендация, 33-я рекомендация СФАКТа ООН по упрощению торговли. Мы в Азербайджане это внедрили, я как пример хочу показать, внедрили в 2009 году, и 2010 года полная версия внедрена, и главным оператором является таможенный комитет, и благодаря данному проекту мы достигли больших успехов, и практически 10-кратно увеличился транзитный коридор, и торговые, вот это все процедуры, таможенные процедуры упростились до минимума. Это очень хороший проект, и я думаю, что те государства, которые внедрили данный проект, они сами знают роль и важность данного проекта. Но дело в том, что я хочу опять же вернуться к вопросу по поводу совместимости. То есть вот мы все время говорим interoperability. Вот этот вопрос стоит сегодня открытым. И я хотел бы инициировать или попросить у Марио, вот, может быть, все-таки, а теперь вопрос стоит международной в торговле, как совместить этих single window, единое окно между странами. Опять же мы приходим, вот вопрос был только что о криптовалюте. Опять же в криптовалюте тоже interoperability вопрос стоит. Каждая страна уже внедрили таких инструментов, моделей, методов по упрощению торговли достаточно много. Осталось вопрос вот interoperability. Вот, пожалуйста, давайте подумаем, как мы можем объединить, допустим, совместить двух единых окно между странами или между видами транспорта, хотя бы между портами и суши-перевозками или железными дорогами и так далее. Вопрос очень серьезный, стоит на международном уровне. И то, что вот мой коллега Дмитрий Якименков отметил сегодня, он все правильно разрисовал, все полностью. Но, понимаете, опять же мы приходим к вопросу, как транзитный, если так single window относится к вопросу импорта, экспорта, так тут никаких вопросов нету. Вопрос, когда касается транзитного коридора, извините меня, тут уже single window, должны мы подумать о пайплайн в single window, вот это полностью видеть цепь всех вот этого транзитного коридора по single window. Поэтому, мне кажется, вот может быть наш модератор ответит, или как вы видите в будущем single window interoperability во всем в транзитном коридоре. Спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. Babayev. Just to give you a hint, well, you know that the name of the PCS in Odessa is PL3335, telling the basics of basically the single window. When you look at recommendation number 36, the heading, the topic is single window interoperability. You might know that about. But I'm sure I'm looking at my screen now and I see that, well, actually, he is going into the camera. It's Mr. Richard Wharton who wants to react on that. Richard.
Thanks, Hans. Hello, Mr. Babayev. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think we have to come back to basics. Why do you want to share information between the single windows? What is it for? There's been quite a lot of generalization around we need to share information between single window. We had it in the maritime single window environment in Europe. We need to share information. What information do you need to share? You don't need to share every piece of information. And also from a customs perspective, there are tax secrecy laws. So you can't, from national legislation, share a lot of the data anyway. So you need to look at what data is to be shared. And as I said in my previous response, it's about translation. If one country is using WCO and the other country is using ASICUDA World as a custom system, and they have slightly different ways of sharing, they can just translate between the two formats. And that's the key to it. And when you were mentioning about rail, road, and those types of things, that's where the benefit of port community systems or cargo community systems come in. Because the problem with single window, or the challenges with single window, is that generally they're focused on government-to-government information and business-to-government information. They forget about the operational information. There was one country in Europe that was very proud of their electronic customs, but the goods didn't move any quicker because the goods sat on the quay for 6 days because nobody had given a commercial release to the shipping line to allow the goods to be released. And in order to do that, you had to print off the electronic declaration. So I think you have to take a step back and look at the information that you want to share and the reasons. And there also needs to be trust between parties. We've seen this is where something like blockchain could help. the Port of Antwerp phytosanitary authorities and the phytosanitary authorities in New Zealand have shared data using blockchain directly between authorities because they've had an agreement, there's trust, and also they use blockchain as the single point of truth. So that can work. But again, one of the challenges we see in international trade is trust between parties. And when you talk about single window, I think Jalal may be able to answer better because they merged from a port community system into a trade single window. And it also covers work with other African countries. I think, Jalal, you might have some comments on single window interoperability.
Right, Richard, thank you so much. I totally agree with you. We need to come back to basics. Interoperability is where is the need to change information. So it's more exchanging useful information for the business communities or government stakeholders. And there are a lot of initiatives of bilateral or multilateral interoperability initiatives. What have been presented this morning with the API enabler or network of trusted network, it's kind of very, very flexible interoperability. Final customers oriented, which is very, very good. In Africa, we are working in similar things to exchange useful, again, information for our communities through the African Trade Hub, e-Trade Hub, which is an interoperability platform between African trade portals and also single windows and port community systems. So when we talk about interoperability, we need to differentiate if it is the multilateral interoperability or bilateral interoperability. And there are today a lot of initiatives in the world regarding that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jalal. And I see in the chats that also Mario wants to add something to the interoperability. Mario, you're still there, I suppose.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Just one point, I wanted to respond a bit to what my good friend Iqbal Babayev mentioned. Mr. Babayev had been the head of the single window project in Azerbaijan for quite a while, and now he is the Deputy Director General of Azeri Customs. So he's quite knowledgeable about these things. We are all very proud of your success with the single window in Azerbaijan, because this is probably the first in your region. If everything was normal, we were planning to have a seminar for the Caspian ports. We were also thinking of inviting IMO and working with you, IPSCA, for some event in Baku for the port community systems in the Caspian Sea. And this point is very natural, like the exchange of information interoperability among systems in that region. So maybe when the situation becomes normal or in the future, I would like to renew that proposal that we co-organize something together with our Azeri colleagues in that region. And one last point on this, recommendation 36, you, Mr. Chair, mentioned that it lists several elements of the interoperability. One of them is the standards. So what we are discussing at this whole seminar is use the same standards, the underlying standards, the core components, like building the schemas and BRSs, etc., for different documents based on the same reference data model that CFAC provides, etc., etc. This is an idea that can help the interoperability. This is what I wanted to mention here.
Thank you so much, Mario. You're completely right. The standards of the same are very important issues to be covered as well. And for many, many years, we know from you and CFAC, I was one of the gurus about 50 years ago to set up the 30 years ago to set up the EDFAC messages. The best kept secret in the world is the core component library. because we know from inside that it's available and that there's all the data definitions is available, but the world, the business world didn't know. So you see a lot of proprietary standards are on the world actual in use now, and how to streamline the same again. So that's a big task we have to take, and especially also on this interoperability, it should be great to handle that. I see some more questions. I look at the time for coffee, but I would like to have the last questions handled now. I see that there's a question about responsibility of sea agents is emphasized in case of submission of wrong information. There are penalties, but no penalties on the single window and on the PCSs, I can tell you. It's a penalty you will get from the port authorities or from the customs. Because when you give the wrong information, the port community just puts through the information to the authorities, and they will get the information from the ship agent. So the ship agent or the carrier itself, it depends on the country or who is in charge of that. They are still responsible to give the right information. And in the past, we have seen that sometimes they give the information to the PCS once, send it to the authorities, and then do not change the information anymore. So what Dimitri was talking about, the port call optimization, is a very, very good tool to assist in that, because it warns when it does discover that there's a difference between the ETA on the PCS and the ETA coming from the vessel itself. And that message is then sent and notified back to the shipping agent, because the shipping agent is still responsible for giving the right information to the port authorities and customs. So, right, in the meantime, I see more and more questions coming up. Michael, I see your question as well. Well, what about your question? I saw your profile. Your profile about standards is very nice, giving a picture about harmonization of data. Who can give an answer on the question of Michael? We have to be short now, isn't it? Do I skip so many now? I don't hope so. Richard, it's a question to you. You spoke about further need for harmonization. Can you give an answer to Michael's question?
Yes, and I'll try and be short. Yes, you're exactly right. There are different sectors, different needs. However, where we can, we need to harmonize. If we look at the IMO, that has worked very well in that case. And actually, we're all in global trade. So if one standard doesn't cover it, you'll use another. But it's about harmonization. To us, that's the biggest problem we find. With the new evolving Internet of Things, I've asked many of the technical providers for the new items, the drones and others, what data standards are you using? What data standards? Oh, well, they don't know what they are. One blockchain gate release company, we asked, what type of container are you releasing? They said, oh, we just release a container. That's not good enough for safety, security, and those reasons. So harmonization is key, but it should be pragmatic to make sure it's all linked. And we need to ensure, and I know Michael has much more knowledge about standards than I do, but from our point, from a global perspective, we need more harmonization around the world.
Thank you, Richard. Alexander, you have a question? Or is the question about how Rotterdam Blockchain Initiative is seen in the common perspective?
Thank you, Hans. Well, as far as I am one of the co-organizers, I cannot raise hands within the program just only like that. But it was a question from Andrei about Rotterdam port. You have seen the link, so it was a question to you, not for me. I cannot respond on your behalf on the port of Rotterdam.
I'm not a member of the Port of Rotterdam anymore. You know, I know the blockchain initiatives. I've been looking at the initiatives so far, but well, to say to reinvent the global trade, that goes, well, too far in my opinion, especially when you talk about blockchain, because blockchain is good just to use it for those kind of things that are let's say, high value or certificates or things like that. So high value documents like bill of lading exchange between the various parties is very important. CETA certificates, for instance, to get rid of all the documents and to have a streamlined data process between origin and the end supplier is also very important. I know that Rotterdam has a lot of innovation labs around, and they are using blockchain on all kinds of things, and especially they use it for their, well, I won't say to reinvent the global trade, but they're using for the power situation in the port of Rotterdam, about the pollution, to see what they can do on electricity power, on hydropower, and all kinds of those kind of things they're using blockchain these days. So not so much in especially the logistic flow where we are heading for. So yeah, for me, it's a question. I know blockchain could boost the global trade for 1 trillion in 10 years. They say, well, okay, it's their words. Sorry. I won't say I don't believe, but I know them. I know how to handle, and they're quite keen to do a number of things, as you know, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I think within a couple of years, we don't talk about blockchain anymore, but another tool again. So let's see what's coming over us.
Thank you, Hans. Well, as you already said, that it was high time for coffee break, but
yes,
still we have 3 participants' hands, well, perhaps to be recorded after the coffee break.
Yes,
it's up to you. You are chair.
That's okay, no problem. Yeah, first coffee. You can set the time for coffee. 15 minutes. It's up to you.
Yes, 15 minutes is fine, I think.
Yeah? Okay, right. We will be back in 15 minutes.
Like 15 or 50?
15.
My dear friend.
Буквально 10 секунд, даже меньше.
Yes.
Yes, of course, Ms. Bayer.
Спасибо. Я буквально 10 секунд. Я полностью поддерживаю идею Марио Апостолова и по поводу Каспийского моря. Вот я вам одну простую схему покажу. Вот видите, настолько важно сегодня Каспийское море по транзитному коридору север-юг, восток-запад. Сейчас сегодня вот этот порт, международный торговый порт на Каспийском море в Азербайджане превращается на большой хаб. И я, Марио, могу с вами поддерживать вашу идею. Очень хорошая идея. И как раз в рамках этого проекта мы посмотрим interoperability полностью, innovation technologies in all transit corridor. Мы полностью это поддерживаем. И я могу договориться с международным портом Каспийского моря, руководством и на уровне, государственном уровне поддерживать этот проект, инициируйте, пожалуйста, этот проект, и мы будем его поддерживать. Спасибо, это очень хорошая идея. Большое спасибо.
Thank you. Thank you. So coffee time now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jalal, also for your support. I see you have to go. So have a good day until next time. Thank you.
So let's meet at 45.
Yes.
11 or 12:45. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hans.